Back with another video, Bad News Brown. Now this video is going to be about the Oakland Police's worst unit, as I'm going to put it. And this video is going to be inspired by a statement somebody made, pretty much saying how a lot of the youngsters nowadays got it easy. They didn't have to deal with this particular unit. So it got me thinking and reminiscing, so here's this video. Now the unit that I'm talking about is the infamous Oakland Task Force. Now, when you hear about police from other cities, from the metros to the vices and the gang units, nothing of course was like that Oakland Task Force. Now of course, we would have to go back. Now if you're new to my channel, I speak on a lot of topics, and I got a video explaining why there's no Crips and Bloods in Oakland. I suggest you watch that video. Now in that video, I speak shortly about a certain era in Oakland, kind of like after when the Black Panthers and the rise of the drug era. And Oakland was pretty much ran by Nino Brown, well, plural, there was a few Nino Browns, and that pretty much dictated the street culture or the street structure of Oakland ever since. Now during this era, now this is the early 80s, the 80s to the 90s, probably to mid 90s, but pretty much for the most part the 80s. And you had task force that was tearing the town up. They was the gang in Oakland. We'll just put it like that. And you probably heard reference to the task force in a lot of rap songs by Bay Area, in particular, Oakland artists. I could name a few. I might put a few in the video comments. I may not. But anyway, yeah, that Oakland task force, y'all, they was, and I'm sure in your city, y'all had similar police units. But the thing about the task force, again, this was not a gang unit. It was a drug unit. So again, Oakland, it was Coakland back then. So drugs plagued the streets. Pretty much drugs pushed the line. Hence the Nino Browns. And back then I was living in the West, in the Bottoms, in Camel Village. Now I got a video explaining Camel Village pretty much being the oldest or original hood in Oakland. But I was living in the village back then, and task force used to hit in the village back then. And of course, most of the projects, they didn't tow it down and rebuild them. But back then, the old village, you had, I guess, alleyways on through certain parts, ends of the village, where you can kind of drive through to enter in the village. And tasks would just ride all through there, jacking fools and everything. Now I was young, so I didn't pretty much have to worry about them hemming me up, but again, they did. I would be lying if I didn't say police wouldn't hem up the youngsters and try to get info out of us. And of course, we wasn't saying nothing. And I even remember times I'm with my peoples and then got pulled over by them, and the conversation went a little something like this, like, man, what you doing with all that money? I'm taking my kids school shopping. Well, what you gonna buy them? A Rolls Royce? Whatever they want. And I remember that conversation clearly. But again, task force, y'all. Hey, and if you know you from the town, you can go ahead and put the comments about that task force. And there was a infamous, legendary task force officer that everybody hated, of course. Mr. O.T. Lewis. He was a problem. And again, and let me put a disclaimer, because I ain't even gotta speak on the sentiment that the black community in particular have with the police force in general. And again, I'm gonna say this: the burden of proof is on the police to prove otherwise. It's not for us to like them. It's for them to prove that they actually here to provide a decent service for us. I'm just going to put it like that, because, and I don't want to get all into the intricacies about all police ain't bad and this and that. Well, of course, but the good cops, you need to, hey, start fingering the bad cops. But again, that's another video, but I wanted to just highlight that because this is not to glorify the police either way. I'm not pro, I'm not anti, but I can speak on why the police even exist anyway. But again, that's beyond the scope of this video, but I definitely want to put that out there before I continue. But again, and it's a trip because like I said, every city had a particular police unit. Even over in the L's in Frisco, you had white ghosts, and they was a problem to be reckoned with too. But it was something about that task force. Now again, I didn't actually seen with my own eyes as a little boy them rough cats up, and not even just the criminals, so to speak. They, when they came through, especially certain ones, it was like I said, they was a gang in themselves. And I'm sure you, whatever city you from, you can attest to that as far as the PDs doing what they do to y'all. But again, man, as far as Oakland, that task force, they was a problem for the everyday hustler. I'm gonna put it like that. But again, that was a different era. You know, back that was I'm gonna say that was the hustler era of Oakland. And one can argue was that bad or good and all that. That ain't what this video is about. This video is strictly explaining who was the most notorious or infamous police unit in Oakland, and it was the task force. Now nowadays, I don't even think they got. I know they don't got no task force. I'm pretty sure they got the so-called gang units, which again, Oakland is not LA. I really don't want to. It's really not necessary for no gang units to be out here. I don't necessarily care. I know that the youngsters is clicking up or whatnot, but in my opinion, it's a different definition of gang, and that's a different story anyway. But I'm really just thinking about them enhancements and all that we didn't necessarily have to deal with back then. But it seemed like now they starting to implement them now on these youngsters. So hey man, they like the statement that inspired this video, saying that they didn't have to deal with tasks, but we didn't have to deal with them gang enhancements either. I mean, but we had enhancements, but they wasn't gang enhancements. But it was definitely different type of enhancements, you know what I'm saying, indictments and all that old type of stuff. But again, man, it's Bad News Brown breaking it down for y'all one time real quick. And I wish I could have showed y'all some photos of the actual task force in action, or just how they looked, because it was the old Crown Vic, but it was more of the box Crown Vics that they used to ride in, and they wasn't black and white. It was just, task was all black like Crown Vics or whatever. And if y'all remember, people that's older than me from the town, y'all go ahead and put in the comments exactly what they was riding in back then. But I remember just the all black. They wasn't the black and whites like the regular OPD. They was, you knew task when you seen it. And they had a little vice and they worked in conjunction, but task was the main thing. And even before I forget, it's a trip because even as I got older and, you know, I did my little time in prison, and when I was actually in Pelican Bay, and I was a level 1, I wasn't on the 4 yard. I mean, but that's a different story because you go to the 4 yard before you get a yard first before you even get, but that's a different thing again. Plus, just to even mention, most of the maximum security prisons in Cali is locked down anyway, so it ain't really no program. That's why they even got us up there to level 1s. But again, one of the COs up there was actually, he said he was an ex-task force, and he mentioned certain areas about Oakland that I knew he was talking about. And again, he was, like he said, late 70s, early 80s. And it was a trip because, as a matter of fact, I got a video coming on the infamous West MacArthur out there in Oakland. But check, because that's where a lot of the whole, the P gang, a lot of the pimping or whatnot in Oakland, because again, like I said, he was either a revolutionary or a pimp, once upon a time in Oakland for the most part, and a lot of that took place in this particular area. And he mentioned it, and he let me know that he wasn't lying. I'll just say that. And over the years, we even had other, I'm gonna say, dirty police running rampant in Oakland. Of course, you know about the whole rioters situation that took place a while back, but even them, as cold as them cops was, I think it was maybe like 4 of them. They wasn't like that task force. I mean, hey, Tuesdays and Thursdays, the task was any time really though. And two, for those that don't know, and you may have heard this reference over the years, Tuesdays and Thursdays, that those for the most part are what police forces call, what is it, non-tolerance day, zero tolerance day. So kind of the name speak for itself. They ain't tolerating nothing. But again, one can argue that they took that way overboard. But again, this video ain't about that to point a finger one way or the other. But it is letting you know how we used to get down, how the police force used to get down out here. And again, them task forces, they was no joke. They was a problem out here. I ain't gonna lie. And that's why they ain't a lot of these rap songs. Cause when tasks hit, oh man, they hit, and they coming in. I mean, I got a lot of stories I ain't even gonna speak on, but you know, even from personal experience, I'm gonna put it like that. Although I was a minor, yeah, I mean, but again, that's how rampant they ran through the neighborhoods out here. That hey, anybody my age, even a little younger, you know the task force. You even know certain names of certain ones too. But most notably the one I named a minute ago, that's probably the most infamous one. Yeah, Bad News Brown, man. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe.